Welcome to the etude number 24 first video for the 2021 All-Region Etudes for Oboe. Today we're going to be looking at the beginning of the etude in F sharp minor. In the warm-up video we looked at the scale, but let's take a look for a moment at the etude itself. You'll notice it has a lot of notes. This is definitely an etude that if you are a person that likes to play fast, this is a chance for you to show off. If you're a person that is not used to these keys, you will have maybe a little bit of trouble, and you should probably practice a lot, one or two measures at a time. Either way, this video will cover the first 16 measures, lines 1 and 2. All right, let's take a look at the first 16 measures of etude number 24. The two lines start in a similar way and then they end differently. That at least gives us some comfort that we don't have to practice everything new. Let's take a listen to the first two lines and how they're going to sound. So now that you've heard the first 16 measures, let's take a look at what technical and tonal aspects are required as an overview. There are no extremely high notes and no extremely long notes, so this is a really well-written etude that gets us going. Please notice that it is counted by the time you've gotten the practice ready and you're ready for the all-region auditions, that it's felt as one beat in a bar. And that's the most important thing to think about. You're headed toward a performance that's going to be one beat per bar. And so all of these 16th notes are really 1 and 2 and 3. Now let's take a look at the rhythms and how we're going to count them. The first four measures are very repetitive. 1 and 2, 3, 1, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1, 3. That's pretty easy. Now let's take a look at some of the mild syncopation of the next four measures. 1 and 2, 3 and 1, 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2. Measures 9, 10, 11, 12 are counted exactly the same way as the beginning. In fact, it's exactly the same music. Here are the final four measures of our excerpt for the day. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. So from a rhythmic standpoint, it's pretty easy to count. Now we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of this first section. Let's start by thinking about our goal. Our main goals I've marked with an arrow and circling notes. F sharp, G sharp, A. You'll notice a little bit of a crescendo to the A. The A is the peak of each line. Now let's put that with the opening rhythmic figure. That's how we want to think about musically approaching the beginning of each line. The next step is looking at this unusual term, leggero. Sometimes it's written as leggero with an I inserted, but the two words have exactly the same meaning. It is a light articulation, not truly staccato, but lightly separated. So let's contrast the three basic articulations. Legato would have been played. Staccato. Leggero, kind of in the middle. It's just got a little lengthy to it. So I would tell you as a student, as a person getting ready for the audition, don't try to play very short. If you have a medium level oboe or a professional level oboe, you have what's called an articulated G sharp key. That means I can play G sharp. Then I can wiggle the F sharp key and it sounds like a trill. In high school, I did not have such an instrument. I could only play it like this. Wow, very tough to do a trill. The reason why I marked my music with plus G sharp is because to keep me from having to go left, right in the middle of measures 7 and 8, I could hold down the G sharp key and still play all of those notes. like this. And the G sharp key was held down all the time, starting with the with the second G sharp. So the last 5 notes of that phrase were played with the G sharp key down. You don't have to do this, but it is a little bit of a labor-saving device. Again, and you notice the G sharp key is staying down the whole time. So, just like at measures 2, 3, and 4, and 10, 11, 12, when we talked about a goal as a crescendo, headed to the A. At the end of each line, we're going to return so there's kind of an arch to the overall shape of lines 1 and line 2. So just a little decrescendo at the end of each line. Reminder that measures 10 and 13 are exactly the same as measures 1 through 4, and that we'll have the same goals, the high A, and the same crescendo. Now let's take a look at a note that in a free society should probably not exist, and that's E sharp. I don't like even to say E sharp, I'd rather just say F natural, but there it is in measure 14. So how does it occur? It's a neighbor. Just like when you go visit your neighbor, you start at your house, you go back and forth. And we're going to do the same thing here. F sharp, F, F sharp. And so measure number 13 is, so you have the scale of A major, which is what the last 4 measures are really in, the key of A major, and then you have an F natural thrown in for spice. And that's the only instance of that, fortunately, in the first 2 lines. Now let's take a look at the difficult technique in measures 15, 16. You're going to have to be patient and practice them many times. I write the word spread there because the best way to play technique that's fast and jumps around is to make sure that my fingers stay in their normal position as if I were playing the notes with all the fingers down, like this. But when I'm playing the technique there, I want those fingers to be spread to those positions too. If I let my fingers bunch up like this, then I'm wasting time to put them back into the position, and probably I'm going to have sloppy technique. Start with slurring. If you can play it clean slurred, then tonguing will be much easier. In order to do that technique, I've got to think about spreading those right hand fingers beforehand. And I'm referring to the A to the D sharp. So back in measure 14, I'm already thinking, get your fingers in position. By the time I play that A at the beginning of 15, my right hand fingers are all ready to go for that D sharp coming up. Just like measures 7 and 8, we want to end the phrase so that there's kind of an arch. So first, let's review 7 and 8. Now, let's do a little decrescendo at the end. So the phrase ends a little bit with a decrescendo, and the last note is going to be full value. It doesn't have a staccato mark on it. So I marked it with a dash just to remind myself, give it a full value, give it vibrato. Since this is the first part of the etude, we want to think about what note we want the judges to hear. Now true, C sharp is the first note of the etude, but C sharp is not a great sounding note and it's not perfectly on pitch. Probably you would like to do F sharp since you're going to be spending most of the time playing in that key. So I would choose F sharp because it's going to sound a little bit better than the C sharp as a tonal quality. Well, now you're ready to go practice the first section of etude number 24. Just like with etude number 5 in the scales, journal your progress. Write down what you played, what you worked on. Write the speed you worked on it. Make a short statement about how did you play that day? What did you feel? How did you feel about the playing? Keep in mind that noticeable gains take consistent practice over a number of days. You're not going to be able to say in 2 days, all right, I'm ready to play that etude. Nobody can. Be fair to yourself. It's going to take time. Think about the goal, not, oh, I only worked on 3 measures or 4 measures today. I think at the very beginning of this etude, 120 beats a minute is fast enough as a starting pitch. Seems really slow, of course, at the beginning, but you can focus more on relaxed fingers and your tone quality, and that's going to serve you well as you get faster later.